Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Senators in heated argument over seat allocation after the Senate President Bukola Saraki declined request by Senator Godswill Akpabio to speak on the floor of the upper legislative chamber. Federal Executive Council announces approval of $2.9 billion in Eurobonds and other securities in the international market to fund key capital projects in the 2018 budget. Nigeria moves up 10 places to 115th position from 125th position in the latest global competitiveness ranking by the World Economic Forum. And Prince Charles and his wife Camilla to visit Nigeria in November as part of their three-nation Africa tour. ChannelsTV.com has more information for you, and on youtube.com/channelsweb you can watch our videos. You can also watch us on your mobile device via your browser or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. Besides giving you access to news updates on the go, the Channels TV and Channels 24 app has an eyewitness feature that you can use to share pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu and follow the instructions. Now we have some of those pictures that were sent in to us, and let's start off with this video showing the poor state of the Owo-Abuja Federal Highway. Now this road, aside from connecting Ondo State to the seat of power Abuja, also links many towns in the state, and our eyewitness reporter wants the government to do something about it. Next is this video showing these people walking through a pool of water that resulted from heavy rain at the Magboro area of Ogun State. Eyewitness reporter says that residents can only find their way out using canoes, and he wants the state to act fast. Finally is this image of these people whom our eyewitness reporter describes as students of the Ladoke Akintola University of Technology, Ogbomosho in Oyo State, protesting. According to him, the protest is over the increase in school fees, and they want the decision reversed. Thanks a lot for all your pictures, and keep sending them in. The Ogun State Governor, Ibikunle Amosun, has denied media reports that he has been persuaded to support the emergence of Mr. Dapo Abiodun as the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress. Governor Amosun's position is contained in a statement from the Ogun State Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Mr. Dayo Adeneye. The statement dismisses the stories of Governor Amosun's endorsement of Mr. Abiodun as nothing but political propaganda to tarnish the image of the governor. Mr. Adeneye says, quote, "Those behind the unfounded rumors are doing so to heat up the polity ahead of the 2019 general elections. They are doing it on behalf of their paymasters for cheap political motives." End of quote. He also reaffirms that Governor Amosun stands solidly behind the state's APC consensus candidate, Mr. Dapo Akinlade. The commissioner further appeals to politicians to be wary of statements that could make the state reverse the enormous gains of recent years. Meanwhile, the crisis rocking the All Progressives Grand Alliance APGA in Imo State is yet to abate, with aggrieved aspirants coming together to form a new group under the auspices of the new All Progressives Grand Alliance. This new alliance, also known as NAPGA, comes on the heels of its controversial governorship primaries that saw Senator Ifeanyi Ararume emerge as the governorship candidate. At a press conference in Owerri, the state capital, members of the new APGA officially unveiled the party to the media. They condemned the outcome of the purported primaries at all levels, insisting that no primary election held in the state.
As we all know and saw the vast display of arrogance, shenanigans and abuse of power under the leadership of Victor Oye. I stand here today shoulders to shoulder with my fellow aspirants to condemn the outcome of the failed primaries, to let the whole world know that there was no primary elections in Imo State. We are calling on INEC not to take any candidate presented by Oye-led National Working Committee. I also condemn APGA disgracing the wife of our revered leader, Ikemba Odumegwu Ojukwu, by asking her to come and run for Senate and letting her down.
A new report released today by the World Economic Forum has ranked Nigeria 115th position globally from its previous 125th position in the latest Global Competitiveness Index. According to the WEF annual report, Africa's biggest economy moved up by 10 places on the index after scoring 47.6 out of a total score of 100. The report looked at 98 indicators across 140 countries to determine the overall ranking and signify how close an economy is to the ideal state or the frontier of competitiveness. The new Global Competitiveness Index 4.0, which measures national competitiveness, provides a much-needed compass for policymakers and other stakeholders to shape economic policies and monitor progress of development.
The 2018 Global Competitiveness Report released by the World Economic Forum shows the United States holding the #1 position, pushing Switzerland, which held that rank for nearly a decade, into the 9th position. On the African continent, Nigeria moved up 10 steps from 125 to 115 in the survey of 140 countries ranked. The WEF survey looked at 48 indicators organized into 12 pillars that include institutions, infrastructure, macroeconomic stability, business dynamism, and innovation capability. The latest higher ranking of Nigeria is therefore a testimony to the various presidential business initiatives of the current administration. The Buhari's government has spent record monies in infrastructure, focusing on institutions rebuilding and ensuring macroeconomic stability, helped by steady and higher oil market, exchange rate, and stronger capital buffers. According to the report, Nigeria scored 47.6 out of a total of 100 points. On average, countries scored 60 points on the ranking.
So the ERGP, the pillar that deals with competitiveness, developing a globally competitive economy, is divided into two parts. You have the hard infrastructure, which is the roads, the rails, the power projects, and then you have the ease of doing business intervention. Pivotal to all this is the creation of an enabling business environment in which businesses can thrive. The intervention is focused mainly on small and medium-sized enterprises, and we try to put in a systemic intervention that makes it progressively easier to do business in Nigeria.
This shows that the Nigerian government still has a lot of work to do in raising the country's competitiveness position in the Committee of Nations. Boston Namofaye, Channels Television News.
Let's look at this in a bit more detail, and joining me to discuss this is the MD CEO Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismarck Rewani. Thanks a lot for joining us on the News at 10.
Thank you, Farmer.
You're smiling. 10 places up, and you've been analyzing this much like a football game since we were talking about it. So how do you see it?
It's good news. After so many black eyes in the last couple of weeks, we've had higher inflation, slower growth, lower reserves, and therefore this is good news at this time. Why do we say this? Because basically what has happened is that we had a lower score but a better position. So John Keynes says that at times you have to run faster in order to stand still. So our competitors actually declined while we declined low, at a lower pace. So where did we fall? We did badly in inflation environment and high debt.
Some people say those were own goals.
Oh, those are own goals. And also our skill level, skill development, vocational and institutional skills dropped. Product market also dropped. But we did well in business dynamism, market size, and most of the things that Jumoke Oduwole was talking about on the PEBEC, that is the ease of doing business. The ERGP is based on institutional development. So one of our weakest points in removing the constraints to growth is building our institutions. So for the first time, we've seen an improvement. So directionally, we're positive here, even though nominally we're still negative in the other scores.
Okay, and then looking at that ERGP that you're talking about, one of the pillars is competitiveness, improving competitiveness.
Absolutely.
So does this sort of put paid to what the government was saying, to say that, yes, progress might be slow, but there will be progress?
No, there is progress. There's no question about that. You see, in the heat of a political campaign, everything is situated in the context of propaganda or analysis. But this is fact. This is evidence-based fact because of the fact that it has been scored by the World Economic Forum, which is a very credible institution. When you look at all the countries that #1 in the world is the United States with a score of 85.6, Singapore, Germany, Switzerland, and Japan. In Africa, the number one country was Mauritius, followed by South Africa, Seychelles, and so on. Now, you'll find that no West African country was in the top 5. So we actually are number 11 in Africa, even though we are the largest economy in Africa. We're number 11 in terms of competitiveness. For you, is that doing good? Well, it's better than what we were. We've moved up 10 places. So let's give credit to the fact that some of these programs are now beginning to bear fruit. It's not going to be an easy, it's not a magic wand. So if you listen to what the Office of the Vice President and the President are saying, is that it's going to take time, but we have to be patient, and so that we don't actually lose direction. Okay. Consistency is the most important. All right, so balance this out for us. For the average person who looks at economic figures, etc., they see it as paper progress. Yes, it's improving, but what I have to spend is still much less. I'm still struggling. So how do you tie that in for them who are listening tonight to say, okay, yes, we've moved up 10 places? No, yeah, that's basically it's institutional. But the reality is that the man on the street is still facing higher inflation. Yesterday, the inflation numbers came out at 11.28, right? Is facing, the unemployment numbers are coming out on the 5th of November, right? Most likely, you're going to see an increase in unemployment, underemployment, and youth unemployment will go as high as almost 36%. So if you add unemployment, higher unemployment to high inflation, and that means the misery index. The misery index today is about 52. That means 52% of Nigerians are miserable, while 48 are hopeful. What you need to do in the current situation is to make sure that the misery index declines by making sure that there's investment. Because the ease of doing business has improved, the investment is divided into two components, government investment and private investment. We should see an increase in investment which will create jobs. But a lot of things will depend on what happens in the Monetary Policy Committee coming up next week. All right, thanks a lot, MD CEO, Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismarck Rewane, for making that clearer for us tonight on the News at 10. Thank you. And when the News at 10 returns, Senate cautions against more external borrowing as it approves federal government's Eurobond to finance the nation's 2018 budget. That's on Business News. Do join us again.